Council meeting to order at 7:15. Sue, can you call roll, please?
Councilmember Ritzema.
Here.
Councilmember Chambers.
Here.
Councilmember Salzweedl.
Here.
Councilmember Barkus.
Here.
And Mayor DeVore.
Here. Motion for the consent agenda for tonight.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll support.
All right, and then we do need to add the vote on the new business B, the vote on the extension of the social district hours. Any objections to that addition?
No.
All right, renewed motion then?
I
as
make that
amended?
motion.
And I'll support.
Any other discussion on the agenda? Sue?
Councilmember Ritzema.
Yes.
Mayor DeVore.
Yes.
Councilmember Salzweedl.
Yes.
Councilmember Barkus.
Yes.
And Councilmember Chambers.
Yes. Thank you. Comments for agenda items first.
I'm back. I am thrilled that the Jackson and the
Can you tell us who you are, please? We don't know you.
Man, my name is Merle Marcus, 215 and a half West Main Street. I'm thrilled that the next project is beginning to move forward, that the bids are in and hopefully moving into that tonight and finding the right construction team. I'm hoping that this next project will go smoother than the previous one, because I know you ran into a lot of red tape and a lot of headaches that happened there that I'm hoping can be resolved. But thank you for getting started on that. My question for you is, I know you can't answer, but please consider starting these projects earlier. My big concern is we are starting a big project with a lot of lead line removal, a lot of road construction, and it's already August. School starts in 2 weeks. It's hard to believe that that's happening so fast. But last year's project, and I know it involved sewer lines and all kinds of things, it was a bigger project, but still, it took from whenever it started through last week. So consider putting those meetings or those big construction parties, if we could get them started earlier in the year, that would be fantastic. I know there's been discussion of the fiscal year and having to start on the first, the beginning of January. I understand that, but if we could have all the pieces in line, because there's a lot of pieces that have to go in line first. We started Monroe Street was started before Riverwalk Festival, which that year I looked up was June 11th, but I know it was well underway already when Riverwalk hit for Monroe. The Washington project, I believe, started early. So I'm not sure why this one started so late, but in the future, if we could move those projects earlier, it sure makes sense to me. I don't quite understand why we're going so late for a big project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Agenda item?
Good evening. Lovely place out here. I'm Wendy Price with Fly River Outreach Ministries. Just real quick, we're going to be talking about the brownfield TIF later with Jess Solis with me, but I just wanted to really give a shout out tonight to Timpson Transport. They have moved almost 5,000 yards of dirt for us and 220 truckloads for us. So just want to give them a shout out. Thanks to the city for support as we move forward with our utility connections as well. So, and again, I'll just reiterate, if there are any concerns during construction, please feel free to contact me, Wendy P. at fromlowell.org. Thank you.
I know.
It's going to be great. All right, anybody else?
Yeah, I got something to add to that. Construction has started on the buildings, so I suggest that everybody drive by, look at them. To me, once I seen everything in place and found out what their future design and goal is, which they are very close to finishing, which I'll let you at the proper time say. Prom is building a community. There's no other way around that. That is going to be an absolutely beautiful community. And I'm very proud to say I sit up here and I fully support it. So, I'm good.
Anybody else? Public comment closed. All right, old business number A, Monroe and Washington restoration.
Yep. Brandon Meares and Katie Mendez are here tonight from Williams & Works to explain to you what's occurring with the delays, what's been done, and how we're going to be approaching this going forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Brandon. He can explain to you what we've been dealing with.
I really don't, it's not good to be here explaining this to you all, how this project has dragged on over, we finished it substantially complete on Washington last November. Everything was fine. Contractor came out in April and did the hydro seeding and all that, but at that time, Martin J. did not come back to do the concrete. So we have, I prepared a written statement for you all, and it kind of laid out all the different communications we had with them, and they just kind of strung us along and did not get out here. Now, they did get out here last week, and what it took was Mike's leadership in threatening to go after the bond, and telling them that they were going to be assessed liquidated damages for failure to meet the ready for final payment deadline. And so with the items left undone, we simply could not prepare this contract for final payment. So if I was out there today, all the concrete that was marked to be removed has been removed and replaced. There is an ADA ramp or two where we need to shoot some more grades. So we're going to check and see if there's improvements that can be made and exactly from what sections to make sure the water's all draining at those very flat ADA ramps. As far as the restoration goes, they came back out, they seeded in April, perhaps it was too early. They said they reseeded again. The work, it did not take in all the locations. So they have told me that with the cooler weather, with the fall coming, they're going to reseed areas that need it again and get those lawns back. And moving forward, the contracts have the strength in them. We have the liquidated damages, we have the schedules, and then we have the penalties for failure to meet those schedules. So we will make it a point to, both in the pre-con and in the meetings, to point out how important the restoration is and the watering and making sure we have a vigorous growth, but in finishing the punch list items and getting the project complete and ready for final payment. And if not, then the liquidated damages will be applied. So in this case, there's potentially $45,000 in liquidated damages, which is better than nothing, but it doesn't really replace the inconvenience and the blight some people have had to deal with, so to speak, with poor restoration and with this concrete work taking so long. So moving forward, we're going to make sure that we enforce the provisions in the contract much sooner than what happened here. We were led on. And the record shows it, that we'll be out there. We had meetings, multiple meetings. We had to provide additional documentation, but the fact is we should have been on them, in April and May.
Are you now the project manager for your company on this project?
I am the project manager on this.
So when you
this
talk
company.
about reseeding, again, are you talking about that they will come in and remove the crop that they planted and they'll start fresh with a nice topsoil and then seed it, or are you going to continue to have them lay it down over what's there and just get choked out?
No,
right
they're
back day one?
going to have to remove the weeds, apply weed application, and then seed it.
Marty, you got about 8 foot into your property. I don't know how far they came on, but that's a lot of topsoil and removal. So I've walked that street quite a bit of times, and I kind of wish we would have just did the same thing when we did Monroe a couple years ago. There's some really shoddy seed and grass growing in there, but I just want to make sure we do it right the third time and not have to come back and do it another time.
Absolutely. Well, I'll get the procedure and I'll communicate it to Rich and to Mike and make sure that they're on board and make sure they follow through with the watering.
So they didn't hydro seed in the sense of hydro seeding. Take a drink, both of you. Thank you, Jim. When I had my construction company, I understand what hydro seeding is all about. You put the seed in the tank, you mix it up, you put a starter fertilizer in, and you go out and you hydro seed. They came along with a kid with a 100-pound bag of grass seed, ended up being quackgrass and pigweed and all kinds of things, tossing it by hand. I said, Junior, stop. I have a cedar, a Scott cedar. You set this thing at 3, it'll lay down your seed beautifully. No, I'm just told to do this and it's the only way I'm going to do it. He threw the seed down. I put my sprinkler out so I could start watering this. At the meantime, I seeded areas in my yard and I got beautiful grass. Jim's seen it. They came back and they took my sprinkler and they shut it off and they threw it up into my yard and says, well, it doesn't need water yet. Then they came back with a hydro seed machine that plugged. It didn't work. In fact, if you go to my house right now, and Jim's seen it, there is clumps of the mulch that they would have used. It was absolutely a joke the way they tried to put that in. Now I have quackgrass, and because I didn't want to interfere with the way their seeding project went, I couldn't, in good conscience, do weed and seed or feed in my yard like I normally do, and now I got quackgrass everywhere, and that's probably going to take 3 years to eradicate, if not longer. And I have gravel instead of dirt in some spots. It's just it's literally a joke. If you drive down Washington and if you went and only looked at concrete, you didn't notice all the people's homes that aren't even mowing that crap.
Now, I noticed a few homes that where the grass was 18 inches tall and a couple spots there between the sidewalk and...
You have a house down there by the one stop sign. They literally scalped it out of there to try to do something different. It's called pride of ownership. The only way to do it is I'll spend the money myself if that's what it takes.
Well, that won't be necessary. I mean, I've talked to Steve from Georgetown, and they are going to take care of the areas that, whether it be killing the weeds, putting in the topsoil, reseeding as we get into fall, where it's a little bit better growing time.
I wish that they were here tonight. I feel like they should have been here
Yeah.
to answer for all this instead of throwing it to you. But in the future, how are we all going to be convinced when these things come up for bids that this isn't Georgetown's new way of doing it? I get your clawbacks and those have value, but why should it ever get to that point when we've used them before with great results? How do we know this isn't the new cost-cutting Georgetown construction?
Well, and we've used them before in other communities, and we haven't had this type of, like, a failure to address, particularly the restoration, which was in they're self-performing that, which doesn't usually NERC will do it. A lot of companies will use a sub that's that specializes in restoration. They chose to self-perform this, and obviously their method left something to be desired. It was not a very good method, so I think we just have to. I mean, if they're not, maybe you don't allow them, to win some work around here for a little while. I mean, that's one thing, but. That's why we have to have a contract, in which we always do, and we have liquidated damages, and we have schedules. So I think where we fell down here is we did not get on them in the spring soon enough and force the contract. Just letting it. It's going to grow. It's going to. You hear those things. So that we have the tools in the contracts to enforce the contractors to do this. And right now you still have like $140,000 that hasn't been paid, on this contract, because the contract is not ready for final payment. And it won't be until these issues are taken care of.
Brandon, your letter states that USDA contract provisions should have been started sooner. Can you explain that and what those are and who should have started those?
Well, I suppose it's the engineering should have started it. We should have started it with them and say, look, the grass is not growing. Martin J has not been back out here to fix the concrete areas. And so we had meetings in early July. I think we finally got them out there to go around and take a look at the areas, because they're like, okay, what do you need us to do? You got to point and show us what needs to be fixed and replaced. So we did that, and we put together a supplemental document, which we included in the packet, where we took some pictures and we said, House 616 needs work, or we got very specific, but that's what we should have done. The tools were in there, and we should have deployed them sooner. It really, when Mike said, I've had it, let's go after their bonds, let's assess liquidated damages, that is what got them back out here.
So did they know that last year it was $850 a day, and this year it's $500 a day, and that's accumulating? Do they know
Well,
that?
right. As I have a slight amendment to that, there's not going to be any assessment of liquidated damages to get to the fall last year. So that it's deemed that they were in material compliance with the date. So,
No, last year there was $10,200 in damages.
well, I think since then, I think we'd have a harder time going after that $10,000 That's depending on a November 1st deadline versus November 13th, which the actual certificate of substantial completion was dated. So, I mean, the board's pleasure, but the thought there was we would not assess any liquidated damages for the failure to get the road open last fall, before the end of construction season. They did do that.
But when I read your letter though, when I total it up so far, there's $54,000 in damages. Are we gonna be credited that amount?
Well, it looks like we're going to assess 45,000. So some new, with new information, I should not have included anything for the fall. But what we do have is 90 days from May 4th to last Friday for $500 a day for missing the ready for final payment date, which was 20 days after the substantial completion date. So then we paused that because there couldn't be any work done over the winter. So as a good faith measure, we paused, and then Georgetown was back out here April 14th. We were out here April 14th, 15th, and April 16th. So I went 20 days from April 16th to May 4th, and that's where I started the clock for the $500 per day liquidated damages for failure to meet the ready for final payment.
And I made the call to go May 4th. That was my call.
Okay, so the last year's penalties.
Because they got the road.
You
Yeah.
approved that?
Yeah,
Okay,
I-
good.
Yeah, that was
All
my
right.
call.
But, so they do know that then this year, $44,000 in damages. They are aware that, and it's $500 a day.
It's at 90 days as of
that
last.
we will be credited that amount.
Well, how that works is you are allowed to withhold it from the USDA, from the payment, which goes to the USDA office. So I've already communicated with the state engineer about this matter.
Okay. And Georgetown is aware of that?
They are aware of that. Martin J. is aware of it. They are not happy about it.
Okay, I'm sure they're not. I'm sure they're not. I just have a slight thing. I read your timeline here of the activities from April until July 3rd.
Well, it actually proceeds, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you look at the bottom, Joey had chimed in with some of the communications he had even in March. And when did they have the USDA inspection? Was in January. So
This
we
also
were,
doesn't include, that also doesn't include the numerous communications Rich and I had.
well, absolutely.
That-
That's not meant to be all inclusive. It's meant to demonstrate, to show, we really were in frequent communication with them, and they just kept brushing it off.
Yeah, I've got to point out, between April and July, it seems like there were 10 total, either emails or phone calls. In the future, I suggest you get right in the person's face and have face-to-face meetings. With me as an engineer, if there was a problem, you went right to the floor, and I think there was too much emails here and too much time wasted.
And I had a thought too, which is we should have had another progress meeting. We should have called one right there when when they were ready to return after the winter in April. I think that would have been a good opportunity to lay out the expectation and just to have another meeting. But we didn't. So, and we should have done that. We had the ability to do that, to call a progress meeting. And so next time, certainly I will do that before construction resumes in any spring, any holdover like that, which is going to happen as we, someone brought up issues of scheduling and when we start, and I think my sense of it is it's when we can. The construction season's much longer than the short school summer, so we can't really be limited to that all the time. Where there's sensitive bus routes, or we can try to accommodate that with the timing of some projects, but sometimes it's just not possible to do that.
Brandon, does Williams and Works have the bandwidth? I don't know if you have helpers or a team to handle these a little more efficiently going forward?
Absolutely we do, yes. Yeah, it wasn't a question of not having the staff, and it's just we did not put the will to it. For whatever reason, we hadn't had problems in the past, so we acted on it too late.
I got a question.
Yes.
Do we get, on the next road projects, do we get a say as to who's going to be hired to do the work?
We ultimately approve all bids for all the work.
Yeah, that's stated right on the instructions to the bidders that the city of Lowell can make the award in any manner deemed to be in their best interest.
As long as you're standing there, Brandon,
Yes, sir.
I like to think we work together pretty good. got some big projects coming down the pipe. Monroe Street was the third strike against Williams and Works. I don't want to hear, oh, it was a miscommunication in the office and we didn't get the paperwork out. Monroe was a fiasco.
You're talking about the island, not the actual.
Well, the road
Monroe
was
Street.
weed.
The whole thing.
There's still weed problems on that street that never really did get adjusted. And I hear about it. I live in that neighborhood. Now Washington Street, right? I live there and I am utterly embarrassed to sit here in council and have my neighbors say, what are you gonna do? We have to wait. Well, what's the timeline? When I know, I'll tell you. Then Monroe comes around for the island. And Williams and Works didn't take the black eye over it. We, the city, did because it's a city project. Oh, them dummies didn't pull the right permits for MDOT. And we took the heat for it, not you. That's 3 strikes. I'm not one to tolerate much more than 2. And now I've tolerated 3. Ask me if I want to tolerate a 4th.
I'm sure you do not.
You
will
answered
not.
the question correctly. We've got, how can I put any faith in Williams and Works with the multiple big projects we're gonna have, knowing you're gonna be taking care of it, when obviously a simple street and an island is expensive, don't get me wrong, but it fails in comparisons to the dollars that'll have to be spent out there.
Well, it does. In that street, there was a sewer problem that had to be corrected, and it was determined, it was found to be closer to the road than was thought. So but I mean, that's just an excuse, and we did not handle that well. We should have had the permits in place much sooner than we had to. We didn't know we needed it at that time, but that was a mistake that we made. So moving forward, I'm gonna be more involved in projects. We got projects at the water plant, are in a more isolated area, but that doesn't mean we're gonna let anything slide on those. We're gonna buckle down. We're gonna do a better job. We're gonna enforce the contract right away and not allow contractors to make us empty promises about getting the work done and completing it properly.
Well, we had an engineering company that you replaced, Williams and Works replaced. And it was a lot of the same issues. And you got to ask yourself, how much frustration does Mike have to take? How much frustration does Rich have to take? And we moved nowhere. Better yet, this council as a whole gets the black eye. And it's easy to stand there and say, well, I'll never let this happen again. I don't have faith.
Well, I don't think anybody can make that promise, but we will do our best to
That ain't good enough.
to learn the lessons from what we just went through. So moving forward, we'll enforce the contract sooner. We won't take these empty promises. We'll go after them with liquidated damages, the other provisions we can, hit them where it hurts, withhold payment, to use the incentives, use the leverage that we have to make these contractors perform.
We'll see.
Anything else? No. Rich? Council? All right, we'll be all set. Thanks, Brennan.
All right, I'll provide updates regularly.
Thank you.
Number B, 2025 street improvement project bids.
On July 21st, the city opened bids for the 2025 street projects, which include the following streets: North Jackson from Avery to North, North Street from Jefferson to Jackson, Front Street, Kent Street, South Jefferson from Main to Front, and that'll be done once the water and sewer repairs are complete, which now will be getting opened that big on August 21st. This project also includes the cost to inspect and remove lead service lines in the project area. The following bids were received: Michigan Paving for $732,255, Georgetown Construction $767,689, Kentwood Excavating $842,303, Wyoming Excavators $987,358. Noticing that Michigan Paving's bid was significantly lower than budgeted, I requested they include South Division from Maine to Jackson in the scope of the work. This road has a very low Pacer rating, experiences significant traffic, and is in need of repair. The cost to add this to the project is $204,000, bringing the total proposed contract to $936,928.44. The cost will be broken down the following. For the local streets, $609,285. Major streets, $144,568.78. And the water fund, $183,074.26. The budget amounts in the local and major street funds will adequately cover all of the street work, including the additional work on South Division. If what we had budgeted in the local street fund for the 2025 projects with doing division, it's like $1,000 more than we had budgeted. So it's within our budget to do. And it's about $50,000 less than we had budgeted in the major street fund. The city also budgets this year $40,000 for lead service line investigation of the water fund and $100,000 for lead line removal in the current fiscal year. The projected costs to inspect and remove lead lines in this project area is approximately $143,000, or $43,000 more than we budgeted. However, there is $40,000 in unspent funds from last year's lead line investigations and $50,000 remaining from last year's removal budget, which can be applied to this work. Additionally, we are projecting in the water fund approximately $140,000 in additional revenue, mainly due to higher anticipated metered sales in the township, interest income, capital connection fees from the Washington Street housing, and reimbursements from the proposed Covenant Park project. Based on the analysis, I'm confident we have sufficient funding to complete the lead line removal portion of this project. I also want to add that the $183,000 is a worst case scenario for the lead line removal. It may be half that, it may be a third of that, it may be all of that. We won't know until we're actually doing the work. The only limitation regarding the addition of South Division is that there are no funds currently allocated for lead line inspection or removal on that street. There is no water main on Division, and existing service lines connecting to the main are either on Jackson or on Front, and they are pretty unconventional. Rich and I discussed this, and we agreed that if the road can be repaired, it should. We also believe that we can address this issue mainly when we do the division project, the North Division and Avery Looping project. We believe we can address this issue there then, and we can bore underneath the road a main if we need to. The only downfall is there may be some smaller trench cuts if we have to put service leads in. That said, we might be able, being the fact the road's so new, it's very possible we might be able to just reheat the asphalt and have no issues with the cuts if we have to, but the road could get cut. But we feel that we have the money to do the extra work. We're in the area. I don't know when it'll get done. You know, it might be 5-6 years down the road before we do it. I was trying to get another additional project in with the money we had. So that was why I proposed it. I do want to answer a couple of the questions that were out there. So normally we do these projects, we usually bid them after the 1st of July, and the reason being is because for county purposes, we can get more roads done by the way we do it. It's not uncommon for us actually the first week in August to open bids for street projects. We did this last year, we did this with Grindle. It's not uncommon. These projects should be done, they better be done before the snow flies. In the past, we've done them like this and it hasn't been an issue. The projects you're referring to are major water and sewer projects that we're having the issues are, but when we go out and do the mill and overlay projects, we have not had these issues. So I anticipate and hope that that's the case, but I'm recommending for the Lowell City Council to award the 2025 street improvement projects to Michigan Paving, who has done a number of work projects for us. They did the Grindle project a few years ago. And they've done Foreman, I believe. They've done some other projects for us. But but I recommend the Lowell City Council award the 2025 street improvement project to Michigan Paving for an amount not to exceed $936,928.44.
Discussion.
Mike, did they not have to come back and fix G Drive the following spring because of how it was not smooth? Was that not the same
Oh, the
company?
accordion.
Was that them?
Yeah.
It was them, but they also did the streets last year. They did 2024 streets.
Right. I couldn't remember.
That's right, yeah, I remember that part of it, but they did come back and
And they- and-
every day.
If I remember correctly, they did expedite the repair too, like they were out here as soon as the
Right, yeah,
asphalt
I'm not
plant's
saying
over.
that.
Right, yes, they did.
Right,
Used
they're
the
wrong.
road fabric on that project, I think that gave them a problem.
Yep.
Yeah, it was the end of the year, they were trying to get it done before the asphalt plants closed,
Yeah, the road fabric.
and the road
Yeah.
fabric caused an issue, but then they immediately in the spring fixed it.
You were happy with the way they handled the warranty work?
Yes, yeah, I have not had issues, I mean, they did that Grindle project, which was a very hard project, a couple of years ago, and yeah, there were a couple small things that came up, but overall, I thought they did a good job.
Other than that, will Williams and Workme, the project managers on this project as well?
Yes.
And
Yes,
you
that's-
know what my answer is, or question is going to be about zero tolerance for anything not completed properly? I mean, I don't want to see a forced strike, I don't think Marty does either, but I just want to make sure, if you guys are going to be project managers, you guys are definitely on top of it all the way from start to finish. I know they're only surface redone, but again, it's important when you're done that we do it right.
We will.
Yep. With that then,
I'd like to add that I drove South Division this weekend. It is absolutely terrible, so I'm glad we're adding that. We have the money to do that. Of course, Lori Gale is in terrible shape. There's a number of roads that are in really bad shape. I'm going to speak for the entire council when I say that we wish we could move these up sooner, but as Mike Burns has said, it's a complicated puzzle. He's doing, and we're doing the best we can with that. The Lori Gale project, he did move that up to 2027. It's going to need some fixes before that, but it was just frankly too expensive. It hasn't been repaved in 30 years. South Division, you said, hasn't been paved in 50 years. So I think this is a good compromise. I just ask that all the residents just be patient, and we're working the plan as best we can with the money available. So thank you.
Also, Mike mentioned it, but he kind of mentioned it when he was just reading, and I really wish he would have harped on it a little bit more. We were looking at the street plan and the cost and found extra money to add additional projects. It's a little one, but it fits in with exactly what we're trying to do. So I think we should have harped on that a little bit more. I think that's important. We move them up when we can, and we're always looking to add, improve, do better. And I hope that that's
Yeah, I think we should.
relayed to the community
Sure.
the way I feel like it should be.
I think over the last few years, there's been multiple streets
Yeah.
added.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, because of the way things are going. So-
And a lot of times when we do it, it's usually, the reason we do it, what usually happens is we find that the bids come in much lower. We obviously want to be conservative because I don't want to be able to, I don't want to come back to you and say, oh, the projects we had budgeted, we can't afford to do it. So we're very conservative, but when we get the bids, we've been lucky. We've had a lot of, we've had things come in quite a bit under to where, okay, we can do more streets. And normally the way we approach it is there's usually streets that are right nearby that are not in the plan, that aren't in the plan because there's just only so much money we can do, and there's only so much we can put out there and say that we're actually going to do. So we try to get maybe some of these smaller streets or some of these smaller segments within that area because they're already mobilized there. We don't have to pay an additional mobilization cost for them. So we do it this way, and we've been able to get a lot of streets done. I've moved streets up years ahead than what they've had, or frankly, the one I always talk about is High Street. That street was never, and we did High all the way from the river all the way till it ends, at least up to well, it does not where it ends, but where it ends past Division, and so we've done. We stretch this out the best we can.
And to Eric's point, and I think again it's important, if you're patient, we're not just, you can look at these first 3 agenda items, the last one especially, shows that we're not here to just do stuff. We're here to do stuff correctly and be the best stewards of your money and your time. You know, I think to Eric's point, patience is going to be important. Not that you haven't already waited long enough, some residents, but we're up here and we're trying to do it. We're doing it.
That's appreciated.
Thank you. Anything else? Mark, good?
Good.
All right, then I will look for a motion to award the 2025 street improvement project to Michigan Paving for an amount not to exceed $936,928.44.
I'll make that
And I'll be
motion.
glad to second.
Any other discussion? Sue?
Mayor DeVore,
Yes.
Councilmember Salzweedl,
Yes.
Councilmember Vargas,
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
and Councilmember Ritzma.
Yes.
All right, last number of old business C, street improvement engineering.
Yep, so attached is a construction engineering proposal from Williams & Works for the 2025 street projects. Total cost for the engineering work is $62,000, will be allocated from the following funds. Water fund, $13,000, major street fund, $8,000, local streets, $41,000. This is within the budget for the proposed street projects. I recommend the Lowell City Council approve the 2025 street improvement construction engineering for a cost not to exceed $62,000.
Discussion.
The only thing that I would like to add to this is in our contract with them, do we have anything, if they don't succeed, they pay a price or no? Is there anything, I just don't want to see a Ford old crap.
Like a clawback,
I
yeah.
just wanted to know if it's true. I mean, it's a small amount, 62,000. I have all the faith that they are going to meet and exceed our expectations on this particular project. I don't want to have to add it, but I'm just going to put it out there, so let's make sure we're aware of it.
Yeah, our relationship with the city is governed by the professional services agreement we have, where there's certain rights and obligations from both parties, particularly our party. So that is the contract that we operate under.
Mike, you want to do that contract?
Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, I'll look then for a motion to approve the 2025 construction engineering for a cost not to exceed $62,000.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Any other discussion? Sue?
Councilmember Salzweedl,
Yes.
Councilmember Vargas,
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritzma,
Yes.
Mayor DeVore.
Yes. New business number A, brownfield request from Flat River.
Mayor, did you want to talk about social district hours first, or?
I have that as number B,
Okay.
under new business, sorry.
No, that's all right.
So, Fromm is here tonight to make a presentation about their brownfield proposal. Their brownfield, we are recommending that they submit their brownfield proposal to Kent County's Brownfield Authority. However, it still requires local approval. Up to this point, the Downtown Development Authority has agreed to let go of their capture for their tax capture for the property, and to if we would go with the Brownfield Authority from Kent County to handle this, they've agreed to allow the Kent County Brownfield Authority to capture it. So, Jessica, before we turn over then, is there anything else we need to add?
Sure, so I think that's a good summary, Mike. So the two sort of disconnected but necessary approvals have to occur for this to move forward. So because the DDA district was established first, if a brownfield project is going to locate within it and ask to capture TIF for reimbursement purposes, that existing district has to consent to step aside or share in its TIF. And so you will very likely see more of these requests because a lot of people are asking for brownfield now because of the change in the legislation. And you have a broad DDA district, so a lot of them are going to land within the district. The DDA has already consented, again, been presented with this information, is consented to the step aside. And now the next step is, and I don't think Mike's going to have you vote on this tonight, but tonight is just an opportunity to learn about the project, what it involves, look at the plan if you're interested in it, and then at the next meeting, you'll be asked to consent to permit the county brownfield to actually process this one. You can, each time brownfield comes before you, sometimes your local brownfield might decide to handle it, sometimes you might defer it to the county.
Is there,
Go ahead.
sorry, is there a capture that the city's missing out on letting the county do the brownfield? Isn't there a fee schedule associated with that?
So we wouldn't get the, basically what it is, the way it works is they would get the capture for the property to mitigate the cost. It just wouldn't come, it wouldn't come through the city. And right now, we don't have a we don't have a brownfield revolving fund or anything like that to where it would be contributory to that. So we deferred it to the, because of the reporting requirements, we deferred it to the county. We want to defer it to the county.
What's the time on that capture, like 10 years, 20 years?
I believe it's 20 years.
Yeah.
20?
And just Solis can absolutely give you more details than you ever wanted to know. So,
We'll see the cycle then.
Yeah. I don't have to get into too much into the weeds, but yeah, so as Jessica mentioned, I'm Jess Solis, I'm with SME. I'm working as the brownfield consultant with From on this project, and it's been a really cool, exciting project to work on, so I'm grateful to be here and thank you guys for your time. So I think you're all very familiar with this project at this point. You've heard about it over the last several months, but it's at 504 East Main Street. It's already been mentioned as sort of a community that From is building. 17 units, a couple of multifamily buildings and a duplex, and so they're already well underway, which is awesome to see. But as Jessica mentioned, just to kind of backtrack a little bit on the brownfield piece of it, so Jessica mentioned sort of this change to the law, which is the Brownfield Redevelopment Financing Act, or Act 381, which was really traditionally used to kind of help facilitate development on contaminated, functionally obsolete, historic property. And a couple of years ago, the Brownfield Act was amended to really open up the program to facilitate more housing development. So what that means is essentially more property is eligible for the program, and then there are more eligible activities. So on a traditional brownfield, prior to the act, you may have seen things like contamination cleanup, removal of contaminated soil or site preparation, infrastructure improvements. And now with the Brownfield Act being amended, the housing activities are really broad. And so that includes sort of a broadened definition of infrastructure improvements. It also means there's an ability for the state and the local authorities to approve a housing gap or an identified financing gap, which is a really unique a new thing that a lot of people are taking advantage of. So like Jessica mentioned, you'll probably see a lot more of these moving forward. But yeah, so one of the sort of the caveat to the housing TIF piece of it is that, as you probably heard it referred to as housing TIF, is you have to have some units in the development that are what are called income qualified, or units that are at or below 120% of the county area median income. So MISHDA, or Michigan Housing Development Authority, publishes annually countywide incomes and rent levels for various area median income levels. And so some of the units need to be at or below 120% of that area median income. So what From is really seeking approval for through the Brownfield Plan is that reimbursement to fill a financing gap. And in this situation, it's to help offset some of those lower rents. So it's what we call rent loss, and so From is going to build this project, and they're going to rent it for below 120% AMI, and there is a gap essentially between what they could get on market rate and what they're actually going to rent that for. So that gap is what's eligible for reimbursement under the Brownfield program.
How many, all of the units are income qualified units?
They are, I can let Wendy talk about it too, but they're all below 80% AMI. For the purposes of the Brownfield application, because there's not enough capture generated, the income, the actual ones that will be income restricted per state law will be 5 units.
Out of how many?
Out of 17. So it's 20% of the units.
And how many are ADA compliant?
Wendy, feel free to.
So we explored that early on in the project a couple of times with the engineers, and we were not able to do that because of the floodplain. We're looking at future projects and the possibility of being able to do ADA compliance for those.
Okay, thank you.
So after 20 years, let's say that's what the brownfield is, then after that, can they then no longer go in the brownfield and increase the rent as they see fit after they're all done?
I mean, technically, yes, but I think that's not From's mission.
Okay, I'm just
So,
saying,
yes.
but they could.
Yep, theoretically they could. Others
I
would.
was gonna say, that's a really fair question.
Yep.
And most private, for-profit developers, that's absolutely what they do, as soon as and they're allowed to after the TIF reimbursement
yep.
ends, yeah. And they're only required to have one unit that's income qualified, just so you know. And to hear that it's gonna, some of these are gonna be in the 80% range is actually pretty good, because just to be clear, this is not, this brownfield law expansion is not meant to address truly affordable housing. I wish it were, but let's face it, MISTA has set the standard at 120%. So, just for what it's worth, that's out of our hands.
Yeah, but if that's part of the selling point, 0 ADA and 5 out of 17 income qualified doesn't really hit me as hard as I feel like it should. What about sale of the property? What if 7 years in, From says, we don't want to be in the landlord business, we're going to sell to the what do they call it? Copper Rock, something like that.
So, and just to be clear, you are not going to be asked to approve this brownfield plan. You're going to be asked to punt it to the county to consider whether to approve it, just so you know.
Yeah, but
Okay,
it happens
it's a
here, so I feel like
so-
we have to be responsible who we punt it to.
So it's a different standard, I think, than evaluating a brownfield plan that's been run through your brownfield authority and signing off on it, et cetera. So that being said, in terms of transfers, how that is dealt with, so typically there'll be a development and reimbursement agreement, and that's how the developer gets the TIF reimbursement. They have to actually create the value, show you the receipts, and get reimbursed after the fact. And that's the nice thing about the brownfield is that it's a reimbursement program, so that the risk is not on the municipality because they have to create that value, generate the tax increment revenue before they get paid back. So they have to do the investment up front. In case of transfer, normally if there's an assignment, at least in the development agreements that I draft, then that assignee would have to assume all of those responsibilities or forego the TIF.
I have a couple of questions. Your charts are a little hard to figure, but if I look at the first year, it looks like that From is going to receive back $47,000, the total tax increment revenue available for capture. Is that correct?
That's not. So that's what's available for capture, but there are other things that kind of happen after that dollar amount is figured. So the state will take back 3 of the state education tax mills, so that's factored. So if you look at the reimbursement, it's like sort of the next couple of pages of the
Table
plan. Yes, it'd be table 2.
And that was about $40,000.
Yeah, so it'll be less, and it's based on the county is going to take an administrative fee to administer this brownfield plan and do the reporting that they have to do. And then the state will take back 3 of those, essentially some of those mills or taxes for their state brownfield fund.
Okay, so just bear with me just a minute. I'm just looking at the tax revenue that we're giving up by doing this. If I just take this development, let's say it's a $3 million facility. So the taxable value would be at $1.5 million. At 15.7 mils, that's roughly $24,000 in city taxes that we won't receive.
Well, actually, I want to clarify something. It's already in your DDA district, so this money would not be going into your general fund. It would be going to the DDA.
But we use the
I should have
DDA
said
a lot
that.
to offset general